If you own a property in South Africa, it's registered. If it's a house, it's registered with the deeds register, Office of the Deeds Register. If you own a car, it's registered in the INATI system. If you own a business, it's registered with the CIPC. If you're renting offices, they're registered with landlords. But we'll be interested to know where the drug dens of Nigerians are. So they can show us where they've been holding the drugs so that we can clean the drugs in South Africa quite urgently. Those who had properties in South Africa, those properties are in the law. Informal squatter camps and informal settlements are never properties because they are illegal in the country. So you are already violating our law if you're going to tell us about a shack in some informal settlement. That's why we have also, as government, approved the PI, what is the protection of, the one that makes sure that when we evict and remove informal settlements, there's no longer going to be informal settlements built in the areas, including the evictions in the informal settlements, in line with our court judgments. So if there's no compensation that will come from government, those who leave their properties, if they are properly legally registered in the country, they can dispose of the properties in the property market in South Africa, whether it's a movable or immovable property. And we are going to seriously appreciate to be told where are the drug dens. Thank you very much.
Now, South Africa's minister's comments come as Nigeria's Ministry of Foreign Affairs confirmed that 2 Nigerians have been killed in South Africa's security custody. Emeka Charles Iregbu was killed after police officers used gruesome interrogation techniques, and Nnemeka Matthew Andrew Ekpeyon, who died in the custody of the Swano Metro Police, with a search of his residence yielding no incriminating evidence whatsoever. A third Nigerian, Musa Yona Joe, also known as Big Joe, was killed by unidentified attackers in front of his shop, according to the statement. These are not just statistics. These are men with names, with families, who went to South Africa to work and build a life. And as Nigeria mourns, South Africa's minister in the presidency has not only rejected the compensation demand, but asked Nigeria to reveal its drug dens. Rufai, can you imagine? A remark the federal government has rightly described as derogatory and unprofessional. Now, the 2 Nigerians are dead, allegedly at the hands of South African security forces. This diplomatic crisis is far from over, and Nigeria will not be silent. But the question that demands an answer is this: if South Africa's own security forces are killing Nigerians, who exactly is protecting them? Good morning, Dr. Abati. Good morning, Ayo. Good morning, Rufai. Rufai, I came to you because I'd like for you to, unpack this story. I mean, you saw the minister over the weekend trending because of, the remarks she made about Nigerians and the drug den. That's not what we are talking about. We're talking about legitimate businesses that have been seized. And this is the sort of statements, rhetorics that cause this that fuels this xenophobic attacks. Your comments?
So, I think I said on this platform that the government of South Africa is complicit. I made it as a statement then, I didn't have facts. But after this interview with Richard Itoro, we have facts, because he stated that the key participants in this protest were given Hilux vans by the government of South Africa. That's an eyewitness of account of someone that stays in South Africa. Oji, I don't like to respond to flippant ministers from South Africa, because, you see, it shows the way they see us. For her to have the effrontery to say that Nigeria lives in shacks, maybe that's what she lives as a minister. Our entire mindset is a shack itself. So you don't expect her to say anything better for Nigerians that are hardworking in the country. Like I said, they will pay compensation. And not be today, but at some point, they will pay compensation. All of this she's saying is utter rubbish. Richard Itoro stated here that it was paying mortgage on a home worth 1.2 million rand. That's over 100 million naira. The mail trail of the mortgage is there. Do they pay mortgages on sharks? The agent is there. So there are evidence to these trails. He said cumulatively all his assets there, and this is just one person, was worth about 3-point-something million rand. I don't know, I have not done the calculation, but I think that should be in the range of about 300 million naira. So that's like close to $500 million. These are documented assets. So when this minister is saying people live in shacks, they have evidence of their asset. They will pay compensation. See, when we are ready with South Africa, when our government is ready with them, it's not all this Mpumolanga minister that is talking with her mouth, or this Wena that will be talking. When we start to do it at the government-to-government basis, this one will not even be there to see anything. So all this one, they can gesticulate and they can be jackporoing and be talking because they want to win election and favor their local base. And another thing, Oji, we've come to realize is that most Nigerians, they are not illegals. I asked him again, because there's another narrative.
Yeah.
And almost everybody being harassed in South Africa are illegals. No.
No, we had our Air Peace flights coming. We had our reporters on ground asking the returnees questions, and they were all legal. They had their documents and all of that.
So they are not illegal. So they will pay. They leave all these ones. Who are these ones on the pecking of my government appointee? They will pay. We are coming.
All right, but I'm glad that the federal government has responded really quickly, Dr. Bati.
The thing to add is that earlier on, we had said Nigeria could follow the example of Ghana and report the South Africans to the African Union Commission. However, the international body that resolves disputes between states is the International Court of Justice, the ICJ. Will Nigeria be willing to go a step further and declare a dispute with South Africa at the level of the International Court of Justice? Because a paragraph in that statement that was issued yesterday morning by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs made it clear that South Africa is complicit. South Africa has failed to discharge its responsibility to protect under international customary law. And 3, Nigeria is calling for an investigation, and Nigeria is saying that South Africa itself should investigate March on March with one of the anti-immigrant groups, and also Operation Ludara. And yet this, junior minister in the presidency comes along, and she just spewing hate and blackmailing Nigerians for problems that were caused by the objective conditions in South Africa itself. If the South Africans say they don't have employment, if they say they don't have jobs, if they say they don't have prosperity, post-apartheid, it is for the South African government to address that. It's not the problem of people from Zimbabwe or from Zambia or outsiders. And then I wonder what some of those former apartheid figures will be thinking now. They will say, well, we seem to have been vindicated. Even Donald Trump is likely to say, well, by pulling out what South Africans willing ones out of South Africa, he knew that this is how these South Africans would behave. So the joke is on the South Africa.
Absolutely.
But the Nigerian government, in the sense of protecting its citizens and pursuing citizen diplomacy, may well go to the International Court of Justice. Because if you are expecting that compensation will be given just like that, the South African government has made it clear it's not going to pay compensation. They are even calling us a country of drug dealers.
Yes.
What insult?
Country of drug dealers. We want justice for those Nigerians that have been killed. 3 of them so far, according to the statement from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. But we also saw Big Joe. We took that story live here on What's Trending. We demand justice, and we need our property back from South Africa, really. All right. Now, to a new explosive details that are emerging in the presidency's fake agency scandal. And they are raising far more questions than the presidency's statement has answered. The senior special assistant to the president on media and publicity, Temitope Ajayi, has confirmed that the police established Adeyemi's appointment letter was forged, stating that the chief of staff to the president, Femi Gbajabiamila, does not issue appointment letters and that only the secretary to the government of the federation does, making Adeyemi's claim a red flag from the start. Let's take a look.
We don't know yet how he got a forged letter of appointment. It is clear, I've seen the police report, that the signature of the chief of staff to the president was forged. And then if you have seen the letterhead on which the so-called appointment was written, it shows that the State House letterhead was also forged State House letterhead. Because on the State House letterhead, there is no contact telephone address or contact telephone number on State House letterhead. On his own, on his purported appointment letter, there is, so anybody who understands the way the system works, we know that this is pure scam and forged document.
Well, in the meantime, an independent investigation by a civil society organization, Good Governance Group, has uncovered a far more alarming layer to this story. While Prince Adeyemi, the DG of the fake agency, was arrested in October 2025 and charged in November 2025, the budget code titled Presidential Economic Advisory Council, Presidential Foreign Intervention Promotion Council was quietly inserted into the 2026 executive budget during the very same months with a 1.3 billion naira allocation. And here is the crucial detail that explains how it slipped through. The name Presidential Economic Advisory Council was not invented. It was borrowed from a real Buhari-era body established in September 2019 with real members, a real mandate, and a legitimate place in government records that was never formally dissolved when Tinubu came to power. A budget reviewer seeing that name would not immediately flag it as suspicious because something by that name genuinely existed under a previous president. That is the camouflage. 10 specific program lines, detailed submissions written in correct budget language, and it survived every single review stage and was signed into law by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu on April 17, 2026. 3 senior civil servants were officially posted to the fake agency by the Office of the Accountant General, sitting in an empty office for weeks with absolutely nothing to do. Ayo, this investigation reveals that Adeyemi allegedly borrowed the same name of a dormant Buhari-era body, inserted it into Nigeria's budget with 10 specific program lines. He secured office space at the Federal Secretariat and had 3 civil servants officially posted to him by the Office of the Accountant General of the Federation, all with a forged letter. And yet, despite being arrested in October 2025 and charged in November 2025, Adeyemi is not behind bars. Nigerians are asking so many questions. Ayo, Serap has responded, but I'd like your comment before I read part of Serap's response.
All right, thank you. So I think this is like an onion.
Yes.
The more you unravel, the more you see more to unravel, and many questions.
Yeah.
Now, the reason why it's important for us to get to the bottom of this matter, and why, thankfully, we cannot afford to sweep it under the carpet, is that it is such a huge, huge scandal, and it points to, even leave the scandalous part of it, is that it would also point us to areas that we institutionally need to address, where there are gaps, where there are holes, where there are opportunities for forgery. Because like Dr. Fagbemi, who was our guest earlier on, had said, it's like we need to now even protect the president, because if somebody can take on this level of fraud, how many more exist within the presidency? How many agencies are there that are fake? How many people are in positions where they are hosting international potential investors and do not have any kind of formal recognition, and it's a forward position? And then I dare say that you cannot embark on this level of forgery at the level of government that Mr. Adeniyi did without
Prince.
Prince. Well, we need to verify if he's really a prince, because now we have to really verify everything about the man and see to what extent he is true. But it would be a shock to me and surprising if a man like this can take on this kind of fraud without an insider. It would almost be impossible, because a few questions that have been asked in public space. Number one is that there was a budget defense that was done. Yes, I understand, he used the name that existed, but who represented that agency in the budget defense? Was anybody there to represent if there was anything at all? Who signed the appointment letter? They say it was forged, but it means that someone can forge a document at that level and it would pass through to the extent of opening a CBN account. There are questions to be asked, and I'm sorry, heads have to roll. If not, we will not learn lessons, because how are we sure that the man that is standing behind the president protecting him was given an appointment letter that was not on a forged letterhead? It compromises.
You have opened
No. What I'm saying is, I'm just saying that if this can happen, anything can happen. And for the credibility of this government, they must find out and get to the bottom of this, so that we do not have thousands. We have ghost workers now. We now have fraud agencies and ghost agencies that should not exist and are receiving budgetary allocation. So for the good of this nation and to engender trust with the people, we have to get to the bottom. Who are those? In fact, Dr. Fabemi suggested earlier on that some principal people should go on administrative leave until this matter is fully addressed, investigated. Agencies are created by law, but DG's office, the office of whatever it is that he was occupying. There are many areas where this happened, and if a fake, they called it a fake agency, so whoever created the agency, if one could have existed and had such backings, including a CBN TSA account, questions must be asked, and we have to get to the bottom of this.
I'll take a tweet from Sarah. They wrote, "We've urged the Senate President, Senator Godswill Akpabio, and the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Tajuddin Abbas, to urgently disclose certified copies of all documents relating to the consideration and approval of the allocation of over 1.3 billion naira to the Presidential Foreign Intervention Promotion Council, Presidential Economic Advisory Council in the 2026 Appropriation Act. We also urge them to provide certified copies of records identifying the members of the National Assembly committees that considered the allocation and the names and official designation of all public officers or representatives who appeared before those committees to defend the proposed allocation. Nobody has a more sacred obligation to obey the law than those who make the law. The National Assembly ought to keep an eye on what the executive is doing and to keep the presidency and agencies of government in check, including before and during the appropriation process, by thoroughly scrutinizing executives' budget proposal before any authorization." I mean, very well said. For me, this is where the ball was dropped. At the National Assembly, the Budget Office, again, the Office of the Accountant General of the Federation. How did this slip the crack? You want to speak, Dr. Bater?
Sarah is making that request under the FOI Act.
Yes.
Yeah, it's not just enough to say this is what Serap is saying.
Correct.
But, the application should go under the FOI Act.
Right.
And I hope that the National Assembly will respect that request.
Okay.
I think one part we're not talking about is, we keep saying, yes, this person dropped the ball. But there's been a mail trail hitherto. There's been constant correspondence between this fake agency, Office of the Accountant General, Office of this and that, even the Senate, as regards training and all of that. So everybody is complicit in this. It's deeper than you think, because all those correspondents over the weekend are now coming out. So it's not just a new thing. Another question you should ask is, when the NIPC flagged it that you have a duplicity of duty, after the NIPC flagged it, the Chief of Staff minuted on it, and then this still went through in the budgets. That shows another layer of complicity. So when they keep calling this agency fake, they say, yes, agencies are created by law. I like to take that being fake with a pinch of salt. Because there were hitherto correspondence across all of this ecosystem. Another part of this puzzle, we need to now go back and investigate this Tani Mola person. The condition of his death, the credibility of his death. I mean, we all know the Gloria Okon situation in this country. Nigeria is a very interesting country. So the investigation is just even starting, if they allow it happen.
Yes, you're right. The investigation is just
very ugly. It speaks to incompetence, it speaks to institutional failure, and lack of credibility.
Yes, well, the police is saying those fake correspondence have been identified as fake, so we need to see more of that sort of investigation. They have Temi Tokpe Ajayi says that the letter that he saw from the police says that Femi Gbajabiamila's letter was forged, his signature was forged, and in any case, it's not the office of the chief of staff that gives appointment letters. It is the office of the secretary to the government of the federation that gives the appointment letter. So that settles that at this point. Let's now highlight this story that reads like fiction, but is devastatingly real. In 2007, a 14-year-old gospel Kinani from Ogoni land in River State disappeared without a trace, breaking the hearts of his parents, who both died in quick succession, never knowing what happened to their son. 18 years later, Gospel has now been found, not at home, not abroad, but inside the Nigerian Correctional Center in Port Harcourt. He is now 33 years old. Arise News correspondent Ovieteme George covered the story.
That very fateful day, we were in the house between 8 to 9 o'clock, from 9 o'clock to 10 till morning. We don't see him. My mother could not go anywhere, nobody go anywhere. We were searching for him here and there. Even this prison yard, this correctional center, we go there almost 2 times.
Gospel's disappearance dealt his parents a fatal blow.
My mother be the first person to think and worry, saying different things, and died. Then my father also died on the spot of this thing. And we were just like that.
Fortune, however, smiled on Paul when a legal practitioner took him to the correctional center to see someone he thought could be his missing brother.
When I get there, I just come in. I saw my brother outside, where he was sitting down. If you look at him, it's like a no human being again. He was there, started crying. He was normal, but get there, he become abnormal. I need justice. Because a whole man cannot just be taken away from us, no information, no case file, nothing about him. And then drop in the prison yard for 18 years, good 18 years. Now he come back, become nonsense on earth. No, there must be justice about it.
Really heartbreaking. Thank you, Ovieteme George, for uncovering this story. Now, Gospel's mental health is now a serious concern after 18 years of incarceration, and a 10 billion naira lawsuit has been filed against both the federal government and River State government over his wrongful detention. But here's the question that demands an answer. Who put a 14-year-old child behind bars? And why did nobody come looking for him for 18 years? Dr. Abat.
No, indeed. His family looked for him. They went to hospitals. But the correctional center where he was eventually found, his brother said they had been there twice.
Yes.
But what is the problem? He is known in that correctional center as Baridi Sunday. But they were looking for a person
exactly.
who had been given another name by the correctional center, a new name, Baridi Sunday. So they were looking for Gospel Kinani, but the man inside the custody was a Baridi Sunday, who did not exist to his family. Now, this is part of the problem with the administration of justice in Nigeria and with human dignity. This young man was said to have left home 18 years ago. At the time, he was 14 years old, and then he disappeared. Now, there's nowhere in Nigerian laws where wandering or loitering is an offense. There are many more of such persons that will be either in police detention or in correctional centers who were just arrested for wandering or for loitering. They will ask you, where is your identity card? You cannot produce it. The police will just dump you in their van, and from there you find yourself in prison for no offense whatsoever. This Baridi Sunday, he could have died in the correctional center, except that Justice Simeon Amadi, because chief judges have the right sometimes to go to prisons and to try to do a review and free people. That's how he got lucky. Some people never get lucky. They die in custody. So this is a problem with, the protection of human dignity, human beings, a person's right to life in this country. And this is, again, to use the phrase, about institutional failure. And that's why we urge that there should be, in fact, an audit of all persons in our prisons or correctional centers, they now call them, who are awaiting trial persons or are persons, who have not been taken to court, whose offenses are even unknown. Those prisons are congested. The point has been made. And many of the persons there, they don't even know their offense. They don't even know who their contact persons are. And I think that to the extent that the responsibility of government is to ensure our fundamental human rights under Chapter 4 of the Constitution, this is a very embarrassing outcome. Yeah. And I hope that the state and whoever is behind his unlawful detention for 18 years, he practically has lost his life. He now has mental issues. We ensure that he is properly rehabilitated, given treatment, and compensated, and that his family will perhaps also file a suit immediately against the Nigerian government, to enforce his fundamental human rights under the laws of Nigeria.
Very well said, Dr. Bati.